Welcome to For the Love of Books, Bees Books Edition, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries.
Hello, this is Pari.
And this is Jenny, and we're here to talk about
Bees Books.
Oh, you didn't do your hands there,
I
Pari.
did. I was actually accidentally on purpose holding it tight on my lap because I feel quite giddy today.
Yes, I also feel giddy.
Oh,
yes.
maybe it's because the sun's shining in our faces.
The days are getting slightly longer
They
as well, which
are.
is great.
Yesterday, when I was at the train station getting my train into work, which is at about like 8 o'clock in the morning, I saw the lights went off, and I was like, oh, and it is still light. So we're at that point when 8 o'clock is no longer like trudging through the darkness.
Exactly.
Which is lovely.
It feels as if spring is round the corner.
Just peeping.
Yeah, the snowdrops are peeping out, the crocuses are having a wee look, the birds are singing.
To be fair, I think there's going to be actual snow
Yes.
later this week, but that's okay. The flowers and the birds can handle it. I think.
Yes.
There's bird song as well, yeah, you're right.
Yes, yes.
So I think that's helping us, the weather really affects our wine.
Yes, and while we're thinking about spring, our theme this week is Over the Hill.
Oh, I don't know that you expected me to go in the direction that I went.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so I'm, yes, because one of them is like a little bit sideways, like I usually do.
Uh-huh.
And the other one with a classic book that I went as like, oh, I'm never gonna, like, I never thought I would read this, but it fits into it so well that I must.
Right.
And it goes in a very...
Oh, interesting. What are they?
Direction.
Just tell me straight away.
So my first book is called Pets Tell Tales, Ancient Egypt. And it's by Rick Worth and Jordan Colver. And it is a fantastic cover, first of all. There's a pharaoh being eaten by a hippo, or like trying to avoid being eaten by a hippo. And it's a graphic novel.
It's also non-fiction, so...
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a lot going on there. So in this case, the over the hill bit is a bit the sideways. So ancient Egypt, right? It's been around for a lot of times. Yes. So I went with the phrase meaning over the hill, sort of past its prime, past its peak. Which, no offense to Egypt, like I'm sure you're lovely, but like you don't have pyramids and pharaohs anymore. You do, but yeah, not in the same way, which is probably good.
Yes. Yes. Now I know an interesting fact that might not be true, Pari.
Oh.
But apparently hippos kill more people than crocodiles or alligators put together.
You know what? I don't know if it's true, but I think that people should accept it as true because I don't think hippos get enough fright. Like people are not as frightened of hippos as alligators or crocodiles.
Cute.
They're cute
in a way.
And that's how they lure you in.
Yes.
That's how this pharaoh on the cover, he's like, oh, maybe I'll go pet a hippo. Oh, I'm dead now. And I have to be buried in a pyramid. So that's my first book. And my second book is still my ongoing classic series. And it's called The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And it's a classic, but we also have another copy in horror, which I never read or like very rarely read. I never would have thought of reading this book because I am a scaredy cat. Yes. And also this cover is a little bit frightening.
It is, yes.
Yes, it's a bit unsettling, which is what this book was. But yes, that is what I'm going to say about it for now.
Oh, right, okay.
Because I have lots of things to say about it after. But I want to know about your book.
So I have three. Two I'm going to talk a lot about, and one I'm not going to talk about too much because I want everybody to read it first, as usual. So my first one is a crime. Ooh. And it's called A Lively Midwinter Murder. Yes. It's book possibly 4 in the series. I think I've spoken about the 3 Dahlias, which was the first in the series before. We're now on book 4. And I've wriggled this in because the 3 Dahlias, one's young, one's middle, one's old. They work together to solve the crime, but obviously one of them is over the hill.
She's not going to like you calling her that.
But in her acting career and things like that, she feels as if she's
past
over the
her
hill.
crime.
And that's it. But also, it's basically murder happens and they get snowed in. Talking about snow before.
Nice.
So they can't get over the hill to get to the police station.
Oh,
So
but
there's two things.
that's a little bit of like, I didn't say The Haunting of Hill House because I thought it was obvious, but it's not. Hill House is a haunted house that's set amongst the hills. So it's surrounded by hills. You'd think it would be on top of a hill, but it's not. It's in the middle of hills, which makes it slightly more spooky.
Inaccessible. My second book is Jed Greenleaf by Kieran Larwood.
Yes.
I have went like totally Kieran Larwood
Universe, Larwoodverse, yes.
and this is a new one. It's
Yes.
book one in the series. I've squeezed this in because during the book, which I'll talk about more, there is a point where they have to compete against each other, and it's not over a hill as such. It's in a kind of, I'm sure it has a special name, but it's like a natural amphitheatre almost. Like it's this huge kind of, it looks like a dinosaur. A troll has came and scooped a big bit of earth out. So everybody sits up on a hill to watch into what's happening.
Yes.
My third book, Pari, which I adored, absolutely adored, is The Everlasting by Alex Meehan.
Yes. We were talking about this just before you started reading it, I think.
Yes. And the reason I've squashed this in is because very annoying in libraries is that if there is a map at the beginning of a book, quite often our date label is over it. And in this case, it is over the hill. The date label is over the hill on the map.
Oh, I like that.
It's not too bad.
That's my favourite squishy. Yeah.
But yes, so
that's the book you want to tell us all to read.
Yes.
Well, I don't even have to be told. It's on my list already.
Absolutely. Yes.
Do you want to talk about one of your books first?
Yes, I will talk about A Lively Midwinter Tale. So as I say, I spoke about the first book, The Three Dahlias. Dahlias. I'm going to say Dahlia because that's what I see in my head.
Yeah.
This is book 4. And we're in a Scottish castle in the middle of nowhere. There's a big loch at one side, there's a village further down the road, and the three Dahlias have been invited because I think it was their scriptwriter or something on one of the first books that they were kind of all involved in. They've become friends. I'm pretty sure her name is Libby. And she's invited him to the wedding. She's marrying a Scottish laird who's only just become, he's taking his birthright back and things like that. Moving into the castle, trying to put it on the map. They're thinking about making it into like a wedding venue, things like that. So this is like a practice run for their own wedding. But there's going-ons. And basically Libby invites them to the wedding because they're her friends and she doesn't really have a lot of family, so she wants people she knows about, but also because she knows the Dahlias are quite good at sniffing things out that are wrong. So she kind of hints and invites that basically things have been happening in this castle since she's got there, and she'd really like them to have a look and see what's happening. And Katie Watson, sorry I should have said that the author, makes this all very believable straight away. You are in the winter in this castle in Scotland. They all get there kind of, at different times, so they meet different people. This time they're also all bringing their partners with them. So there's like added people in the mix who haven't really been there before to see how the Dahlias work. And the older Dahlia, Rosalind, her partner is an ex-policeman who's never too happy with them investigating crime. And then
that's what policemen have to do, right, in these kinds of cases.
Exactly. And basically it's like, yeah, but you're an ex-policeman, so nah. So they get there, you discover there's missing jewels, there's things kind of appearing in the wrong place and things like that, and then a murder happens. They go down to the village to buy some Christmas decorations for the Christmas tree. When they come back, there's a body, and it's a brilliant kind of, not quite a cozy crime, but that kind of a thing. Like, I read it just in a couple of sittings, just snuggled in, and imagined myself in this kind of snowed in castle, because obviously by the time they get back from the village, discover the body, it snows heavily and they can't get out. It's an old castle, so the generator goes, so there's no phone reception, there's nothing like that. But again, it's believable enough because it is an old castle, and it's slightly ramshackle.
But also, I think with these kinds of books, like you as a reader are engaged in this act of suspension of disbelief, right? Like you want the writer to like whisk you away to an old Scottish castle. So you're willing to like go with it and not like nitpick too much.
No, absolutely. And it's just go with it. Just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
The fact that the snow built up very, very quickly. Yeah.
In this day and age, yes.
But then, snow can do that.
That's true.
But it's quite good because before they get there, a body has been discovered anyway, but nobody knows who it is. And they just think it's somebody who's went out on the lock on the boat, got into trouble. And so the police are there when some of them get there, and they all go away because they take their photos, they do what they need to do, and then they go away, and they think it's just going to become an accident. But of course, the Daily straight away are like, oh, a body has been discovered, and they're trying to see things and connect things, which there isn't to begin with. But when they find the body, the second body, suddenly things start kind of sparking off. And I really enjoyed it because each character of the three dailies gets their own voice. It kind of jumps between each of them, and they are very separate personalities. So the youngest one, Posey, she's starring in the Dahlia films at the moment, and her partner is Kit, who is her co-star in it. And they had filmed the first film at this castle originally, so they kind of know things about the castle that other people who are visiting don't. There's no secret passageways or anything like that. It's just
like this pointed.
Yes. But they kind of know the nooks and crannies. They know the kind of weird sound effects that you get by standing at the bottom of the stairs. You can hear that in a different place than you would expect, things like that. So they've got like a kind of inside look. And then we've got Carol, who's like the middle Dahlia. She was a kind of star in the 80s of a TV series. She basically is Dahlia, as much as she can possibly be. She comes with her wife, who grounds her slightly, because she's quite a big, and just jumps in and things like that. And Annie, her partner, is kind of like, yeah, but maybe wait 2 minutes because something might change, that kind of a thing. And then we've got Rosalind, who's the older one, who, as I say, comes with her ex-policeman partner, who kind of, as soon as the body's discovered, is like, right, okay, well, we can't get to the police, but we need to preserve the scene and all this kind of stuff. And of course, the dailies are just like diving in, and do point out the fact that the body's found outside, the snow is going to destroy everything. There's a big storm, there's trees falling down left, right and centre kind of a thing. So they do have good ideas, but he gets very frustrated and basically realises unless he kind of gets them on board with what he's doing, they're just going to mess everything up. So it was a nice wee change than the previous books, and that that was quite enclosed, and it was just a wonderful story. And because, as I say, it's kind of wintry, you kind of curried in, and it was just really good.
Yeah, it's again something that I think I would quite like to listen to, because it would be nice. I know we're just about to hit spring, but you don't know when it's gonna arrive. Like March, we always place so much hope in March, and it always betrays us. So I think winter is around for a little bit longer.
We might get snow later this week.
Yeah, so I think it's great to read like seasonal books during the season, like because it actually makes you feel a little bit better about the horrible weather.
No, absolutely.
As well.
And I feel this book could be a standalone book, if you know what I mean. They explain enough of the people who've been there before that you kind of know what's happening. I still would always recommend read it in order, but this, I think, because it is like in this castle and everything else is shut off, and you're kind of learning with the characters at that time, it could be a standalone book, but would probably make you want to go back and
read. So it could almost be like you start with this, and then if you enjoy the people and the vibes, then you can go back and
absolutely
expand it. Fantastic. Well, I'm going much further back into history than when this is supposed to be set. So this, I just picked it up on a whim when I was in Steps Library, because I haven't seen it in Coatbridge. But I'm so glad I did, because it's such a silly, perfect kind of premise. So it is basically the history of ancient Egypt, told through the eyes of the animals and birds that lived there.
Excellent.
So it's like different chapters that it's divided into. And it is like that based on proper research, like of what we know so far. And I have a real love for learning about worlds and like civilizations that are so far into the distant past that there's so much myth making around it. And especially with ancient Egypt, right? Like it feels so alien to non-Egyptians. I don't know how it feels to Egyptians, but it feels like all these things have like been romanticized so much that you almost feel like you know everything already, but this because it's telling you so many new things, maybe things like how dangerous hippos are, for example. You're learning about it in a way that's fun and funny, and like I love that it's through the eyes of animals as well, because and we know, or at least some people know, that ancient Egyptians really valued like cats a lot as well, and different animals. They lived much at a much closer relationship at that time with them, like crocodiles in the Nile and things like that, than we possibly do now. And it's nice that it was what role the different animals and birds played in their everyday life as well. So it is like a weird mix of non-fiction because it is based on like research, but also just like a fun graphic novel with characters that are a bit mad. And I think it's such a great way to learn about, well, anything. But recently I was away in Manchester, and I was at the museum, and they have an Egypt room. And I'd gone there because one of the days that I was there, the museum was open late. So it was open till like 9 at night or something. So I'd gone after hours. And that was really fun. But by the time I got to the Egypt room, I was a bit tired. And you see so much there, right? Like, because people have found a lot and like transported it through both like legal and nefarious means to different parts of the world. But there's so much there that like, and it was just a room. Like, I know some, like the British Museum, I think has more stuff, but it can feel exhausting. Like, even though like I'm a reader, like I read and I like to read all the stuff that they write
Me
about
too, yes.
and things. But even then it can get there was quite a loud sneeze there that scared us. Yes. Sorry it wasn't one of us.
No, it was not.
Because that would be quite alarming that it would have come through the walls. But yes, so I was there, and even though I'm interested in the topic, it can still get a lot, especially if you're going later in the day and you've already like seen a lot of other stuff. And I think like if in museums they have books like this, not just about like say ancient Egypt. I think the next one in the series is going to be Rome.
Oh, cool.
But just like different civilizations, but also different histories. I think this is such a great way, not just for kids, because it is like for kids, but I learned so much in a way that didn't feel like too much. And especially when you go to like say a museum or you watch a movie or something related to that time or visit that place, like if you go to Egypt, you're learning about it in a way that feels like you're not learning, and both of us love that learning without like learning. And it just has so much personality. Like I thought the writing was really fun, like the animal characters as well as like the funny pharaohs and like things that we're learning about. They were imbued with so much that it felt like almost instead of the romanticizing of ancient Egypt, you're seeing them as people who lived and who, had like flaws and laughed and like sort of cried and things that I think you sort of disconnect from that a little bit. So like in this museum as well that I went, there were two, what's it called? The things that pharaohs are put in.
Sarcophagus?
Yes. So there were two, and one of them was empty, and one of them had a mummy in it. A mummy, yes. Yeah. But they put this, I did manage to read because I know that there have been conversations recently about the fact or about the ethics of displaying mummies in like museums, because even though it was 3,000, 4,000 years ago, they were dead bodies that were buried, so they were people.
Yeah.
And now, like 4,000 years later, we're all like gawking at them. Because so imagine like in another 4,000 years, like people like us, like whoever our loved ones who die are like up for public consumption. So one of the mummies that was there, they'd written that, we're still participating in these conversations, we're learning as we go. And this might be the last mummy we ever have in Manchester museums, which I thought was really interesting as well, because it's just a way, and in this book as well, I saw that it's just a way of thinking about the past differently, but also about the present differently, because you get so used to things being the way that they are in certain, like, either like the ideas of a place or ideas of your, like the things that you do in your, wherever you live, that it's like sort of a pause to like reflect on like, do we need to be doing it in this way? So I just, this book was obviously not talking about that, but it was, I think, in conversation with that, because like I said, it was really, we're learning about these people in not like a history lesson kind of way, but in like a, oh, they were people just like us. They just, they had similar kinds of things that they liked to do, things they didn't like to do, things that, even if they were like kings or queens or whatever, or like the regular people, you could make parallels to ours. We don't have kings and queens in the same way, but we do have people who have more power and people who have less power. So yeah, just really fun.
I like that it's maybe going to be a series.
Yes.
Because I think, in schools and things like that here, we often get like, ancient Egypt, ancient Rome, Vikings, things like that. But it's just like a kind of taster. And sometimes, people want to learn more,
yes,
but also don't want that kind of dry learning.
Like a textbook.
Yeah. But also, as you say, for grown-ups or older people kind of, who want to revisit something in a different way.
Yeah.
But I love the idea it's going to be a series and we're just going to pick
through the lines. Yeah, like, isn't that such a fantastic idea?
Yes.
Like we don't learn so much about the Vikings because they didn't make their way to India at all. We don't learn about ancient Egypt and Rome as well so much because I don't think it had the same kind of crossover. We had like our own history to deal with, like ancient India and stuff like that. So it's more like an adult that I'm learning about these things, or like as a teenager with Percy Jackson and like, Rick Riordan. So it's really nice to have a different avenue into learning about these things, or like you say, you get like a taste of it in the classroom and then you want to like rush into the library and learn about Vikings through the eyes of their cats.
Yeah. I was trying to think of animals that you would get in ancient Rome.
Yeah.
And I like a good Roman murder mystery, and I can't think
a horse
of, apart from like the kind of horse racing, I can't think. So I'd be interested to see.
Like chickens, or what was it that they used to tell the future? Right? They used to kill some sort of bird, some sort of fowl. Oh God, I hope. I mean, I think there will be some of that. But children are very prepared for blood and gore,
absolutely.
so good luck to them. But yes, I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for the second, because it's just like, I love the way that they're writing about serious things without becoming too serious about it, which is my favorite kind of non-fiction.
Illustrations, how are they? Do they
really, again, with so much personality, and again they're like in conversation with each other. So like the illustrator, I know in like a good book, like a good children's book, will have their own way of telling the story that kind of matches but doesn't just copy. Like in a textbook, you're just illustrating what it's saying, but in this they're just using the text as a prompt to like build another world just through the illustration. So I think you would really enjoy this, Jenny, and I think any adults who are open to visiting the shelves in the children's section and are just interested in ancient Egypt would really like this too. And of course, I think kids would love it.
Oh, brilliant. We'll talk about illustrations vaguely. Kieran Larwood. We both really enjoy the Bodkin books, and I recently read the Carnival books.
Yes.
It was a different illustrator for that. This one is getting back to the one that did the illustrations in the Bodkin books, which I adore.
Yeah,
adore so much I can't remember his name.
Oh, I don't think I ever knew his
David Wyatt.
Yes, I did.
He does. There's not as many illustrations in here as there is in the Bodkin books.
I love the one on the cover.
Yes, but look.
Oh, beautiful. Very classic. They're
yes.
like black and white and like full 2 pages, but like they are not old-fashioned derogatorily, but like that kind of,
exactly.
yeah.
Suits the
Yes.
story. So this is about Jed, and it's set in a more kind of familiar place. So the Carnival book's kind of Victorian London-ish, quite steampunky. This is set in, and there is a date near the beginning, but of course, as usual, I did not put my glasses on. Pari. I want to kind of say 1700s.
Ah.
And now I'm determined to find the date. I can't find it. And it's kind of set in sort of the south of England, except it's called Albion rather than Britain or England.
Yeah.
We do have London. We do have some kind of known places. There is a beautiful map, and this one is a couple of pages into the book, so there's nothing destroying it at all.
I feel like I blame the publishers for that. Surely they know their books are going to go into libraries. Come on.
No, exactly. But beautifully illustrated.
Very nice.
And it's the map of the south of Albion. So it's right down. So we've got familiar places, but named slightly different. So we've got the Isle of Wight, but it's slightly different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's all very slightly different. But if you don't know anything, you don't care. And if you do, it's kind of familiar enough that you can kind of work out where we are. So in this world, we have a queen who I don't think was the queen at the time, but she's still a familiar queen, Queen Jane, I want to say. And she rules the country along with the guilds. So there are 6 guilds, I want to say. I did read this a wee while ago, Pari. So we've got the Guild of Claw, the Guild of Fire, the Guild of Iron, the Guild of Bone, and another 2 I can't remember. And each year, these guilds have like a competition, and whichever one wins the competition then goes on to help the Queen run the country for a year until the next games, till the next kind of thing. So our hero, Jed, is just an orphan. He just lives in a village. He, all these things are way beyond him. He doesn't really care. He's just, bopping along, doing his thing. Works on a farm, I think it is, to kind of earn his keep. And then one day he gets into a bit of a fight with somebody, another child who's down from London and is a bit of a wide boy, kind of causing trouble. They get into a bit of a fight, and all of a sudden Jed grows, his skin becomes bark, the bark of a tree. So the poor boy, we don't like him, really hurts his hand, because when he punches him, he's punching a tree basically. So it looks like Jed is part of one of these guilds. So he suddenly gets carted off. That all happens very quickly at the beginning. He gets carted off to be, I think it's the Guild of Leaf is the other, the guild that he goes to. And they kind of have powers over plants and things like that. So he goes to this place, like the guild, like main hall kind of place, and learns how to be who he is. The great thing is you learn along with him. It's one of these books that, right at the beginning, you're like him, you're just kind of plodding along, not quite sure what's happening. And then, he gets introduced to this and you go along with him. So you learn about this kind of, I can't remember, it's called Arthenfest or something. And people from all over the country come to watch these kind of games. And they all kind of sit in this big kind of upside down bowl, and everything happens in the centre. But there's nefarious things happening, Pari, behind the scenes. And it appears that 2 of the guilds have basically been in government for the last 100 years. It's always one or the other kind of a thing. And their guilds are, I think it's Iron and Fire, are growing all the time, because the other guilds seem to be losing people. Like, doesn't seem to be as many people born with that facility. So they're kind of getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And of course, when these games come along, basically the idea of the games is you have to collect these orbs, these spheres, and you use your powers. And because Iron and Fire are kind of stronger, they're always winning more. And the more globes that you get, it's you that becomes in power for that year. And our hero Jed finds out something that will change everything. But at the same time, he's also trying to get used to his powers. There's different levels as well of like the people that join the guild. So there's like 1, 2, and 3, and obviously 3 is like the strongest. Most people in the smaller guilds are 1, almost 1.5, not quite. And Jed discovers that he might be slightly more powerful than they all first thought.
Yeah.
It is an excellent start to a series. I'm hoping it's a series. It says book 1 on the front. And it says Jed Greenleaf, skin of bark, soul of a hero.
That's what I saw first. When you were talking about this boy, I was like, is he human? But yes,
Magically
now I know.
human, yeah. It's got all the things that folk like us want. You know, it's like a new kind of world, but it's familiar. You know, you've got these guilds who are like houses and other stories, you know, and there's like bad guilds and there's good guilds, and you know, if the guilds start working together, is that going to cause like a shift in everything?
Yeah.
And one of my favourite characters in it is the girl from the Bone Guild, so they can kind of talk to the dead and things like that, but she's very pessimistic. So she's basically like, yes, we will go and try and do this, but I'm probably going to fall off the building and die. Or yes, we'll do this, I'll speak to my ghost, but afterwards probably I'm going to get pushed out a window. She's very pessimistic.
She's
but
not pessimistic in like the regular sense, in like the death is around every corner.
Exactly. But it's like a kind of new world of magic, but still very much familiar. And it's a junior book, and it's just a really, really good introduction to this kind of new world, while keeping everything for people like us who are familiar with that kind of world.
Yeah.
But if you're not, this is a brilliant way to get into it.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic, and you can tell it's very much more of the kind of Podkin books that he's been writing rather than carnival books.
Yeah.
Because there's that kind of mysticism and things like that. But at the same time, the carnival books, slight steampunk, you know, that's kind of in here as well. So it's as if he's taken everything he's ever written, created something completely new, but have still kept the really good storytelling that he does. And as I say, the illustrations in it are absolutely beautiful. And you do kind of turn the page and you see an illustration for a bit that you've just read, and you spend ages looking at the picture and going, oh, right, okay, oh, I can see that, oh, right, okay. You've forgotten what, you know, you have to go back a page to read again so that you can continue with the story. I can't recommend it enough. I enjoyed it so much. I'm just eager, and this is fairly new. I think it was only out the middle of last year.
Yeah.
So I'm just showing Pari another picture at the back there.
I made a very impressed face.
Yes. So there's like
very good, yeah.
So Guild of Iron.
Oh, there's a crow that you shouldn't fly with, because otherwise you'll be shot with the crows.
So what did I say earlier? If you fly with the crows, you'll get shot with the crows.
Yes.
So we've got Guild of Fire, Guild of Iron, Guild of Feather was one of the ones I'd forgotten.
And they all have like guild specific powers.
Yes, absolutely. So the Guild of Claw, and as I say, that some of the smaller guilds kind of do, because they're all the same age roughly, and they all kind of talk to each other, and it's one of those things where the kids are like, adults are rubbish, you know, we can do this. But the Guild of Claw, they seem to be able to turn into bears and things like that if they've got their full powers. As I think Guild of Bone speaks to like the dead. Feathers, they have an affinity with bird life, and they can kind of communicate with the birds. Iron and Fire, you can imagine what they're going to be able to do. And it's just a wonderful story. I can't recommend it enough. And as I say, Kieran, write the next one really quick, because
he does seem to really enjoy the world building aspect in his books. Like, even I've not read the sort of the second series that you've talked about, and I've not read this one, but from what you've said about them and what I know of the Podkin books, he does such a good job of like the balance of not telling us too much, but telling us just enough that our imagination can do the rest of the work, which is like, he gives us just enough for us to then go on and like imagine this world in all its complexity and beauty and ugliness and whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, at the one point, we're at the Tower of London because that's where the government and where the Queen kind of are. And if you've never seen pictures of the Tower of London, never heard it, you absolutely are there. You know, you at one point they're going on a boat on the Thames to try and get in without anybody seeing them. There's a character in it, which I'll not spoil, but it's from that time. A couple of them are from actually that time, but we kind of meet him, but we don't know that's who it is until like kind of later, and then you're like, oh, but if you don't know who that person is in history, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, it's still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Fun.
But yes, his world building is just perfect. And I can't rave about this book enough, but I will stop because I'm interested to hear about The Haunting of Hill House, which is a horror.
It is horror with a horrifying cover. And unlike Jed Greenleaf, half bark, half hero, I think, whatever that was, instead of the expansiveness of that world, in this, we are just in a house. That is our world. Like, it starts off with, we see the characters, we briefly encounter the different characters coming together, like why they're coming together to this house. And we get a glimpse of their personalities. But then once they're in the house, that is their world. The world is just has like compressed. So I'll read just what this book is about. Alone in the world, Eleanor is delighted to take up Dr. Montague's invitation to spend a summer in the mysterious Hill House. Joining them are Theodora, an artistic sensitive, and Luke, heir to the house. But what begins as a light-hearted experiment is swiftly proven to be a trip into their darkest nightmares and an investigation that one of their number may not survive.
So to me, that sounds like a crime book. That sounds like...
well, the criminal is the house, I guess. Yeah, so
it takes a spooky kind of turn.
It is, absolutely. So the premise of this book is, which this didn't do that great a job explaining, which I was actually glad for, because I only picked it up because of the Hill House-ness of it, and it fit the theme that we had for the episode. I wouldn't have picked it up otherwise. So I went in really not knowing anything except that I should be aware that it's going to be a scary book because I'm scared of scary books. So this Dr. Montague, he's basically like this established like doctor, serious person, but he's always had this side interest of like proving supernatural entities and supernatural things exist.
Are we in Victorian times?
No, it was written in the 1950s. That's when this book came out. And I feel like that's when it is. So there's not a set time, but it feels like it could have been any time from between the wars, the world wars, to after the wars. It's set in the US, so it's American. And but even that, it could have been like England. It could have been, it doesn't really matter, all that. All the things that are around. What matters are the characters and the character of the house, including like that. So he wants to basically write about like the supernatural stuff, but because he is taken so seriously and like he is like a serious person with like a sort of high status in his professional life, he wants to have like proper proof. So he has visited different things before, and he's like, he knows what he's talking about in terms of like he's researched and stuff. But this is when he wants to, like, there's been like, it's 8 years old, this house, and there's been like various tales about it, which we don't know at first. And he has decided that he wants to spend the summer like proving that this house is haunted, and then he wants to publish and like be acknowledged as the leading expert in supernatural, whatever. Eleanor is this girl, the woman that he sort of invites because when she was a girl, she had some poltergeist activity, is what he thinks. Like he's gone around and like asked different stories, like he's asked his acquaintances and friends and like people in the supernatural interested world, like, have you heard any weird stories about people and stuff? And he's written to everybody, and of them, like two people accept. Like, two people end up coming because like some random guy has invited us to this, and he doesn't tell them that it's for like the haunted houseness of it. He just like invites them over because I have a project or whatever, and they're like, okay, let's go. So Eleanor doesn't have too much going on in her life, as we know to start with, and we learn more about her because she is mostly the protagonist. So we see the world through her eyes, but there's also like this omniscient narrator who seems to know more about all the other characters and stuff. So we have a glimpse of them as well, but it's mostly through Eleanor's eyes. Theodora has had a fight with her flatmate. She has a very, very good life, but she's had a fight with the flatmate, feels like she needs a break. And this is why she decides. And she's a very like, kind of like sort of, like she's not a very serious person.
Quite
She's
flighty.
like, quite flighty. She just does what she feels like, doesn't really care about consequences or people. Luke is the heir, so he is going to inherit this house eventually. And we find out how that came to be as well later. And so it starts off with the four of them. And this is how the book starts, okay? So, no live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It had stood so for 80 years and might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone.
Ooh.
Like, what a way to start a story. I was hooked. Like, I had never read Shirley Jackson before, didn't know quite what I was getting into, and I was like, oh, that's a way to start a story, isn't it? So they end up in this house. Like, first it's Eleanor who comes in. There's like a weird sort of caretaker of the house, very sinister, doesn't want them to come. It's like really, he's like, and we know this is what it is. Like I've been taking care of this house for so long, and you're just like interlopers. That's the kind of vibe. His wife is sort of the cook of the house as well, and she has like very firm rules of like, this is when I'm gonna give you breakfast, this is when I'm gonna give you lunch, this is when I'm gonna give you dinner. That's all the information she gives them. And like, and we don't spend the night at this house. We go away and nobody can hear. If you cry for help or anything, we can't hear you. So this is how we're introduced. And Eleanor is like, oh, okay, was I right to leave my life behind? But she didn't have much going on. So it's like a weird, and then throughout the book, we're finding out more about this house, but we're also finding out more about these characters. And it starts off like, it's a very, like the juxtaposition of the two tones in this book was also something I was so into, because when we're with the characters, they're very like, they're trying not to take it super seriously, but even when they feel like the house is oppressive in some way, it's just the feeling that they're getting. The house is not described a lot. It's again like Kiran Lavud. It's like, enough is given that you fill in with the rest, but unlike in his worlds where you're like filling it with wonder, here you're filling it like, oh, yes, absolute dread. And it's the same with this as well. Like, it's very psychological in that way. So when they're interacting with each other, they're trying to be really flippant about it. They're trying to be like, not take it too seriously because they are scared, but they don't want to show each other that they're scared. And they don't want to be like the first person to be like, oh, this is actually like, I'm not having a good time. So you see things like, and it starts off like, the weird things that happen in the house is things like, oh, the doors won't stay open. Like, we're trying to like open up the doors, won't stay open. Every time we like leave the room, it shuts. It also seems like rooms and stuff don't seem to be where they're supposed to be. Like, we enter one, yes, we know that the dining room is supposed to be there, but whenever we try to get to it, we just get lost like around a little bit. But again, they're being like, no, this is just us, we are scaring ourselves, basically. It's not really. And like the doctor, Montague, he is very much of the opinion that he doesn't want to influence them too much because this is the proper scientific study. So they have to come to it with their own, fresh minds, and wants them to write their interpretations down without his thing coming too much at the fore. So then like Theodora and Eleanor become really friendly with each other, and they're like again like very much girls, or not girls, women I guess in their 20s and 30s would be with each other, like young fast friends they become. Luke is like flirting with like the two girls, that kind of vibe. He is there, the doctor is there as the kind of like parental figure, I suppose. So that's a different kind of story that we're reading about, the relationships that they're having, and then their interactions with the house, where if what they discover pretty early on is you can't let anybody go off by themselves, because that's not something that the house seems to accept without putting danger in the way. Then the first night is quite terrifying a little bit as well.
Quite terrifying a little bit.
Well, it is a little, but that's what I mean, that it's so sparse in its details, but it's like enough to be like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And like casually, like some sort of horrifying detail is introduced. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then like at one point in the book, I got scared of the narrator. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? It was such a ride, Jenny. I honestly had such a fantastic experience reading this book because I didn't quite know what was going on. And like I said, the lightness of the tone that the characters have amongst each other. And then towards the end, so like after the first, I think 3 days or something, his wife, Dr. Montague's wife, comes in, and she's also apparently helping him with all these kinds of things. So she comes for the weekend, and she brings along one of their family friends who is also like a complete lunatic. Both of them are lunatics in their own way, and they're so funny. That's the thing I couldn't like. I was like, these characters. It's so funny at one point in the book because these characters are ludicrous, and then it shifts to being like, oh, I don't think I can read this at night by myself. This creeping sense of dread and horror. And you see one of the characters losing their minds. Like you see it through their perspective, and you get a little bit scared of them because there's like not red herrings in the way that there would be in a mystery book, but there's like clues in the way that Agatha Christie gives clues, where you feel like you're following a lot of different paths. Like, oh, maybe this is what's happening. Oh, maybe this is what's happening. Maybe this. But actually, no, that's not. It's just like a little bit of a breadcrumb, and you're like, oh no, I was following it, but actually I don't like where this has ended up. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to where I started from, and it ended up being something completely different. And then it ends, right? It's built up, built up, built up, and like there's like small build-ups, and then like a giant like build-up around the framework, and it ends with like a crash. A complete like, oh, like I did not see that coming, but so satisfying.
Right, okay.
Yes.
I was worried there.
No, I honestly, and it's not it's a pretty slim book. It's like 250 pages, and the language, even though it was written like what now, about 70 years ago, 60, 70 years ago, it feels really modern. I loved the way that she set up things, the way that she drew out the characters' personalities, their conversations with each other, the personality of the house and thing, and even just that first paragraph, she's not like peppered it with a lot of descriptions and stuff, but just enough that as soon as I ended up, like, I finished reading this book, I was desperate to read more stuff that she'd written.
And is there lots of books, but have you not heard of her before?
Like I had heard of her. She's really popular in the horror community. She's like American Gothic. That's the genre that she's known for, or might even have invented. I'm not quite sure, but there's another one. Also a very scary. We Have Always Lived in the Castle, a quite scary title as well, which is the next one on my list. And I was trying to read what else we would have in our libraries as well to borrow. It's just the experience was nothing like what I was expecting because I don't really read horror books. And it was fine. It was perfect for someone who isn't really into horror. I refuse to watch horror movies. That's just not the kind of
So you wouldn't watch this because I'm pretty sure this has been on screen.
I would definitely 100% wouldn't. And
even knowing what?
No way. Because the other thing I find is I really reveled in like the language that she in the writing. So I mean, I'm sure it would make like a fine movie or TV series or whatever. Just not for me.
You, right?
No, not for me. And like her writing was what I really became a fan of because it just, even with its like sparseness, it has so much going on, like so much personality, that I became a complete fan of her, Shirley Jackson. We also have like an not a biography of hers that we recently got in the library as well, which is what even like got me thinking of borrowing this book for this. And I'm so glad that I got out of my comfort zone, because I would never, again, like never have read this. And I found an author that I now like absolutely love. Like, what are the chances of like that happening? So I'm really glad I did. I would recommend this to people who both love horror, because this is a classic in the canon, but also people who don't and just want to go on an experience, go on a ride, because that's what it felt like. Like you've gotten into this. Even as a child, I hated haunted houses because I hated the people, like the jump scares of it.
Yeah.
But this one isn't that jump scary. I mean, there's a few like scares, but it's more slow and subtle, which is a little bit scarier.
It sounds more like about the kind of, as you said, the build up of the dread and the
Yes.
the tension and things like that,
Absolutely.
rather than
like one big bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, there wasn't any big bad. It's just like you're trying to see what's going on and trying to anticipate, but you can't because you don't know. And like different people's experiences are different as well in this. So like you're finding out like, oh, what you thought happened may not have. Why didn't it? Why doesn't it correspond to this other person's experience? And then it ends like perfectly. I think it's just a fantastic experience.
for such a small book that it seems as if it was packed.
Absolutely. I'm honestly, I can't tell you how much I admire the kind of world that she was able to build and peppered it with characters that were all so interesting. Like I loved all the characters were all so different. And the way they interacted was again both serious and not serious, like deeply unserious. And it was just such a fun ride, scary, fun. And I would recommend it to everybody. Yeah.
I've only really read one horror book, which was Stephen King's
Yeah.
Carrie, which I really enjoyed because of the way it was written.
Yes.
So like that, because it's like excerpts from medical things and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not just one stroke. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I've never watched it on screen though,
Yeah. Oh, no.
because
No way.
I think it wouldn't live up to how it is in my head.
Yes.
If you know what I mean? And they can't do that on screen, that
Yeah.
it's going to be told more as a kind of story.
Yes.
So sometimes, yeah, maybe it is worth reading something that you wouldn't,
Absolutely.
because it's not the same.
Yeah. And in this case, she does such a great job of the writing
Yeah.
that you trust her to take you in a direction that's going to be rewarding. I didn't know that she was going to reward me in the end, but she did. So now I can tell you, stick with her.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Well, do we have time for me
We
to
do.
talk?
Yes.
So, Alex E. Harrow, we both really enjoy her writing. And basically, this book came in and I went, oh, that's by Alex E. Harrow. I'll take that out. I did not read anything about it, Pari.
Right.
I totally judged it from previous stories.
And the cover as well is
And the
fantastic.
cover. The
Yeah.
cover is beautiful. But like that, I trust her now to take me on a journey which I will enjoy.
Yeah.
So didn't read the blurb, didn't do anything. Looked at the cover, it's beautiful. It's all kind of twisty flowers and a kind of sword in the middle, and there's
With the
eye.
face. Yeah, it looks almost like a knight.
Well, yes. So even from the cover, having not read the blurb, I still had an idea of what I thought it was going to be. Nothing like it.
No.
Nothing
No.
like it. So I will read the blurb for you.
Okay.
Their story crosses history and transcends time, but can its ending ever be rewritten? Sir Una Everlasting was Dominion's greatest hero, the orphaned girl who became a knight and who died for her queen and country. Her legend lives on in songs and stories, in children's books and recruiting posters, no glasses. But her life, as it truly happened, has long been forgotten. Centuries later, Owen Mallory, failed soldier, struggling scholar, falls in love with the tale of Una Everlasting. His fascination with her leads him to war, to the archives, and then to the past itself. Una and Owen become tangled in time, bound to retell the same story over and over again, no matter what it costs.
Oh.
That is not where I thought it was going to go. So at the beginning, you get like a kind of folk tale almost about.
Yeah, I love that description, by the way. That's an amazing blow.
In a way, I'm glad I didn't read it because
Yeah.
I went in here totally in the dark.
Yeah.
But in a way, it's good to know what you're going to come in for. So it starts off with a folk story about Sir Una Everlasting, how she, became this knight, etc., etc. And then you flip to Owen, and it's not of our world, it's a fantasy world. But you and I both read fantasy, and you have a kind of idea of what a fantasy world is going to be like. Owen's world is more like sort of between the world wars. So there's trains, there's scholars in like universities that are big buildings. There's power struggles and things which happen all the time. But it was different than the kind of fantasy world I wasn't expecting a fantasy world, but that kind of a thing. I always think of it as more kind of a medieval type kind of thing. So this was quite good. So there was guns, there was trains, there's that kind of thing, but it wasn't quite our version of it. It was Dominion's version. And Owen basically, really really loves these kind of tales of Sir Una, kind of wants to know more the truth, because it's always like a story of a story of a story. So there's like her story, and then people have kind of, as times went on, retold the story, and things have become different through time. So he wants to know the proper real story, and then this book lands on his desk. And as a scholar, there's other people who are trying to do similar things to him, and it's very kind of guarded. You don't let on to other people. So he is like, well, I need to get out of here, because if anyone else sees me with this book, doesn't question where the book came from to begin with, because he was so obsessed with the book. So he gets out after having an interaction with the other scholars, kind of like, no, there's nothing to see here. I'm just going home for the day really early, blah, 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 that kind of thing. So he goes home and then delves into this story. And there's things that are not quite right about the book that he doesn't really question at first, because he's so excited about this story. And then the book disappears. So a couple of days he has with the book, and then it disappears. And I think there's like a note or something left with an address on it. So he kind of hums and has, and then he goes to this address, and then the story, it kind of begins. I was not expecting time travel, and I loved it. I don't want to talk too much about it, because I want people to read it. I want you to read it.
I will.
But she again is what we adore about authors. The world building is perfect. There's stuff that has happened, that is happening, that is just mentioned in passing. It's not imperative to the story. It's not your usual kind of love story either. It's like, it's just wonderful.
And she also seems to be really interested in stories.
Yes.
And the role that stories play, because the last book that I read of her, the 10,000 Doors of January, had that similar kind of not overarching framework, but in the end, that's what it was leading to, which was the role of stories on people's lives, and the different kinds of stories they tell about people tell about each other, people tell about themselves, and how that all comes together.
This was great, because peppered through it are the stories about Sir Una, but you're with Owen as these things are happening, and you're realising that the stories are not quite
which is what I love.
So you're seeing what actually happened. You're seeing the rubbish stuff that they don't tell in the stories, and then you're getting the story that everybody knows. And it's just wonderful, and it's not a huge book.
No.
But like your Haunting of Hill House, there's so much in it, and it does have, don't worry, a satisfying ending.
Oh, good.
Because there was a point where I had 100 or so pages to go, and I'm like, oh, please don't. But there is a lot of twisty, turny, timey-wimey things happening. But again, it's all believable in its way, and you're going along with that, and you believe it, and you go, I don't care that actually, if that happened, then surely that couldn't happen. You don't care.
No.
And she basically says, time travel is a bit weird. So we might have done something, and in another kind of science fiction series that would cancel that out, but actually in this it works. And obviously he time travels back to Sir Una's time, which is a more familiar kind of medieval time, but he takes things with him which kind of make the stories you realise, oh right, okay, it's just wonderful.
Absolutely, sold.
But it's again a book that you would want to read in a short space of time. You know, it's a kind of, I have a Sunday to do nothing.
Yes.
I will read this book from cover to cover. It's that kind of a story.
And this one, The Haunting of Hill House, which I didn't read over one day, but I read it over like a couple of days. And yes.
I feel like we should swap those books over.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want everyone to read this and you want everyone to read that. So,
but as a reminder, maps, people, please. So at the back of the book, we've got a big sticker over the book, and at the front of the book, we've got this over it.
Very anti-library, this is.
Yes, and I love a map. So I was slightly disappointed in that I couldn't see where they were going, where the dragons lived, all that kind of stuff. But it's okay.
Well, what about next time? Now that we've so thoroughly explored over the hills.
And I just realised we are running out of time. Our next challenge is Adventure Begins.
Ooh, I feel like
all of our books could.
Yeah, could have, which is quite a good kind of like general thing, and I'm sure we'll make it weird.
Absolutely. Yes. See you next time.
Bye.